Time now for Coming In Hot with Brent Wallace, former Ottawa Senator Jason York, and Shawn Simpson.
Good afternoon, everybody. Simmer, we've finally taken this show over to where it rightfully belongs. Just you and I.
There it is, the dream team. Hey, the dynamic duo as they're waiting for Wally. How you doing on this beautiful day, Yorkie?
Really, but why do I look so tiny and you look so big? I'm looking.
I don't know. I've been playing with the camera. I know my mic. I got to get a new mic package. I got to get this all set up. Maybe one of those fancy ones like you end up having. But yeah, I change it every day, and without the 3-shot. Yeah, it does look a little bit different. And also with the 2-shot, though, I got to say, your great work from Mr. Tony Harris is very showcased very beautifully right behind you.
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me about that, and most hockey people know whose skates those are. But if you don't, that's the Gretzky skate on the one side to my left, and the Bobby Orr, the old school Bobby Orr. Can you believe? Think about his skating, because if you ever watched that. It's on DVD, so I'm dating myself here. It's called The Best of Bobby Orr, and you watch his edge work, and it's like he's an NHL guy playing against midget players. Like it's. I'm sure you've seen those clips, Simmer, and those are the skates he skated on. It's crazy. Oh,
it is. And even the year I played in Oshawa, there's a picture of him in the press room. I think when he was 15 years old, he was about 5'7", about 150 pounds when he played in the OHL. But you're right, and the other hilarious part when you watch those old clips. The lack of gap there was with the defenseman. You said, there's no back checking. There's nobody defender. Like, he is on just another level. Like, we think Connor McDavid is good on a good shift. When you watch those old clips, I think at times he was embarrassed that he was so good, right? I think at times he almost laid off, where it's like, listen, I'm playing at 100 miles per hour, and the rest of these guys out here are playing at about 20 miles an hour.
You know what, though? I'd say the guys slashed a lot harder back then, especially the D, because the D couldn't really pivot great. So, and they used those massive. You ever seen a stick from back then? That is a solid 2x4. And as a defenseman, like when I came into the league, you were allowed 4 whacks, but I think those guys were allowed at least 10 good slashes before a penalty was called.
Yeah, so, and there was a lot of knee on. There was a lot of knee on knee. The reason for the bad knees that he had, right? A lot of guys just figuring out how to. That's the only way you could stop him.
Look who decided you guys can't even stop story time just to say hi.
We're rolling here.
Afternoon, Wally.
The show is organic, and it's we started off. You got to be full, Wally. You from yesterday's dinner. Big thanks to our friend of the show, Mike Minot, for taking us over to La Favorita. But Simmer, you should have seen Wally. It was the old Maritimer in him came in. He had the lobster bib on, just chowing the lobster. He's like, this is some good. This is some good. This food here. The old accent started coming out. Him and Eric had to fight each other off for the leftovers after. They're both
None of this is true.
That is true. You and Eric took doggy bags. Although smart move, because you brought some home for your lovely wife Lisa. You brought her home a full lobster simmer. It was husband of the year.
Oh, that's impressive. Yeah, there is nothing better. The key when having lobster is always eat everything else before that, because nothing else is going to taste good. Any tower you have, any seafood, if you have a bit of shrimp, you're like, okay. When you dig into that lobster, man, oh man, there is just absolutely no better flavor on the planet.
We should have just kept talking and seen how long we could go until we bring Wally in. That's my bad.
I would figure out how to mute both your mics somehow. Yeah.
What happened anyhow? What happened? What's going on? Technical difficulties?
I don't know.
You're better than that. That's supposed to be. You're supposed to be with your new understudy. Jake is supposed to have your back. What the hell's going on?
I don't, because suddenly I brought up Martha Stewart and nothing worked after that. So I don't know. We were on a Snoop Dogg discussion.
Yeah, it's like the game show that they have with the sports writers, right? Where the guy's able to mute some of them sometimes. Right? Put them kind of in timeout. At some point, I could see Wally doing that, where it's like, no, okay, that's 10-second timeout there for Yorkie or Simmer.
Sometimes this is the thing. Sometimes our best material is before we come on the air. Like, we need somebody pre-recording, because we were having a wonderful discussion on how Snoop Dogg became such a brand ambassador, and Simmer brings up, isn't it funny that Martha Stewart ended up going to jail before. Well, Snoop never went to jail, but when you look at it, the homemaker goes to jail, and the guy that loved pot is, he's one of the best brand ambassadors in the world now. It's crazy.
Well, he's showing up at sports events now. He's over at the Olympics. Yeah, he has become, and I think a lot of it is just the legalization of marijuana. Nobody cares anymore, right? And I got to admit, he is one cool dude. So I got no problem with it.
I went to see him.
He's everywhere.
I went to see him at Blues Fest when he was here, and I was sitting up in those, they had some section above the crowd, and I think I left like completely stoned because the amount of it was crazy. Like it was like you were going into a smoky house that was on fire, except the fumes was pot. It was everywhere.
Okay. Can we start the show now?
Absolutely.
Well, listen, I thought there was a game tonight. There's not even a game tonight. It's like, what are we doing here? It feels like there's a game, doesn't it? It's Thursday.
Yes.
Like I was fooled.
No, there should be a game, but they do have this thing that they've had it all summer long called the schedule, and it shows you when they play.
Mm-hmm.
You can even Google it.
True fact. When I don't know, but you remember when you're
look at that.
When I was a player, I only knew when the next game was. That's all I did. I did not look ahead. It was one game at a time.
I think and I'm assuming it hasn't changed much, Yorkie, either. The realization of winning that game on Tuesday, it just makes those extra days in Vegas and getting together and if you're going to have a rookie party, anything else, I don't think that'll ever change, right? It feels good. You got a big W there. Goaltender stood on his head. Now let's get to Vegas and have a little bit of fun.
You know what's interesting? Nobody that I can recall posted anything yesterday on social media of players. They did play some golf because I do know, so I saw some, but none of the players posted anything of what they were up to.
I only saw Mendez getting a hole in one in mini putt. That was that's as far as the social media went. Yeah. Oh, he had a beautiful hole in one. And then he tried to pretend like he didn't know the guy was filming.
Oh,
was like,
you're recording that? Oh, I've been recording every hole, Ian. It's the 18th. Yeah. Anyway, by the way, the Sens just got off the ice. They had a 3:00 Eastern skate. Shane Pinto not on the ice. He is a game time decision, but he had I'm trying to remember the exact time. He didn't skate earlier this week, if I'm not mistaken. On an off day. I think he's battling something right now. So I expect him to be in the lineup. And they don't have anybody to put there. So
nobody's on the trip. Nobody's on the trip, right?
No, they called up Reinhardt
back. They sent him back.
They did send him back. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Must be planning. But that's surprising on a long road trip like that. And I guess, guys, almost as surprising on Tuesday night when all of a sudden not only was Forsberg starting, but the fact that Merrilainen was backing up. Like that to me was the big shocker right there. And I guess of all things, man, oh man, I underestimated Utah, York. I didn't know much about them, but I was thoroughly impressed with the way they played.
They're quick, eh? Aren't they quick?
Oh, tempo and pace and puck possession and crisp. And they the Sens, you talk about opportunistic and getting some good goaltending. That's one that you just say, hey, thanks a lot. We didn't necessarily deserve that, but you had to be very thankful the way Mr. Forsberg ended up playing.
That first 10 minutes, I thought I was like in the driver's seat. I thought, oh, this is going to get ugly. No shots for Ottawa.
I was Twitter was lighting up. The Sens are too slow. Look at these guys from there was a couple good tweets. I forgot who tweeted out. He was listing player by player and who was slow and who wasn't. But it's just sometimes on the road that happens when you get overwhelmed like that to start a game. And they were ready to play. Turnier had those guys ready to play. But hey, the weakness to that team is their defense. You just let as that game went on, their D started to turn the puck over and. That's to me, I don't see them as a playoff team because I don't like their D. I know they have some injuries, but they don't have it back there.
Yeah, and also the goaltending. That's something coming in. Ingram was 4-0 coming in, but you looked at his numbers, guys, and it was opportunistic. And I don't want to say he was terrible, but he certainly wasn't very good. And that's, I think, another reason I wouldn't pick him for a playoff spot. They're just going to have a tough time keeping the puck out of their own net.
They seem small too, eh? Like, do you find with them, like, great puck movement, great passing, but it's almost like they overpass it. It's like, you got to look, no, let's go for one more here. Yeah. But they're pretty nice team to watch. Like that Clayton Keller holds onto the puck, but they got some skill, well coached. So Yeah, it's good on the Sens. Like I said, you can almost see that coming. Though I've played in games like that where you are just getting rope-a-dope, like boom, 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 boom. And if you can just hang on, and that's the important of goaltending, as you guys know, Wally and Simmer. If your goalie can help early on for the first 10 minutes, because it's probably going to happen in Colorado too, because you get there, it's the same thing. They always come out hard. Vegas as well. It allows you to get acclimated into the game, and that's what happened. And they were super opportunistic in that game. But how about that one play? I know we're going to talk about Jensen later on the show, but the passing play with Norris and Batherson, those guys just have such a chemistry of finding one another. And Batherson didn't need a lot of room. Wally, I'll give you props here too for your anytime bet. You had Drake Batherson to score a goal.
Yeah, I've got one today too.
Okay, well done.
I had Brady Tkachuk, and I also took Ottawa to win, so I'm going to give myself a little pat in the back.
No,
did anybody?
No, there's no Horowitz for you.
Did anybody take you? No, none of us took Utah to win, did we? Nobody.
No. Moving on.
Oh yes, Wally the heel.
Yeah, thanks for putting that on Twitter. I appreciate that. Thank you.
It was Eric.
So to tie in Anton Forsberg and how he played, is there some concern? Are you guys not concerned that Linus Ullmark has not been in the net now for 12 days? And if Levi Marilainen's still here, he's still questionable for tomorrow to play. So last game was Montreal, which was on the 12th. Today's the 24th. So are we concerned? He's on the ice skating, doing everything in practice. He's probably at 80%. But he like this. I don't want to say this is the Hasek vibes, but watching him in practice, you're like, okay, so what's wrong?
Can he say like maybe Friday?
Maybe Friday. You know what? You just brought up about not knowing if there's a game day or not, whatever. He would walk by us and go, "What time is the game tonight?" Well, it's 7 tonight, Tom. It's 7.
Is it abductor?
Yeah, I guess because it started the season, guys, and I don't have a feel for the gentleman. I don't know any of the background of the injury. In the back of my mind, I'm also thinking of the Hamburglar run, I think in Winnipeg when Craig Anderson was supposed to play. It is very strange that you would get on a charter flight, fly all the way to Utah, which we know is not an easy destination on commercial airlines, and have them both as your goaltenders, and not if you're to back up, you're going to play. So absolutely, I'm concerned. The fact that they had to fly Marilainen in on commercial jet to back up, and also a positive was how well Forsberg played. But yeah, I'd start to say I'm getting a little tad worried as to what exactly is going on here.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I look at it as a way. I'd be worried if he wasn't on the road trip and he was back at home. So at least he's close. I'm just of the mind they're being cautious, and why wouldn't you be? Like, it's the beginning of the season, and to me, this smells like a injury that is something that is minor right now, but if you push it, it can turn into something that becomes lasting all season. That's what you do. You hold out, because why do you want to risk getting something? There's like I talked about this before, a strain or a popped groin, if it's a groin, right? Because groins, you got to rest them. And if you don't, the strain turns into a pull, and you pop it or you tear it. But so to me, it's something like that. They're just managing it. And these guys know what they're doing. And he would be playing if he's ready. He's on the road trip. It's a great sign. So I'm not overly concerned.
Yeah, but if they're 2-4 or 1-5,
well, that's different. But they're not.
Right?
But they're not.
Wow.
It's actually great. It's actually great because Forsberg got a chance to get into the net.
Yeah.
And now like people were ready to throw this guy under the bus. And like, at least now, like, it's actually a perfect, it's a perfect scenario. It's one game, but he got a shutout, and he had a lot to prove there. Like, those other games weren't good. Imagine if he would have stunk it up again.
Well,
like,
I would like to take a moment. We're going to tip the cap to Anton Forsberg for a sec here. Do you have the board, Jakey, called Roadblock? That was his very first ever career road shutout in 73 starts on the road. His 6 shutouts, by the way, sit 7th all time on the Ottawa Senators. And in fact, since he's joined the team, he has the most of any goaltender. Matt Murray, I think, is second with 2. And then for Ottawa, their last road shutout was in April of 2021. It was against Vancouver, and Travis Hamonic played in that game, but for the Vancouver Canucks. 128 games between shutouts on the road. And by the way, Ottawa only had 1 road win against the Western Conference all of last season.
Yeah, and I love the mentality of Forsberg, guys, because as you said, Yorkie, it's not easy. And not that, Corpusalo, you look at his situation in Boston, it's not like you're running away and hiding, but I'm sure there was expectation, and he'd talk to Ullmark, but still you're thinking, well, Ullmark's on the trip. There's only 2 of us. He'll probably start. The fact that he's able to battle out of it, in the last 2 starts, the one against LA and the one against Tampa, they won going away. They had to outscore the teams. If he doesn't play like he did in that first period, who knows what happens? And I just thought, first of all, that looked like Anton Forsberg that we saw when he signed his big contract leading into that summer, where he just stood on his head. He was way more aggressive. He was making sure on the short side. That was a completely different animal that we saw in goal against Utah. And I just give him a lot of credit because he went in there and he battled he battled big time to bring that one home for the Ottawa Senators. And a 4-0 lead, and everyone's worst lead in hockey. And I wasn't necessarily nervous, but just after watching him play in that first period, I wonder how he'd follow up. And I nothing but impressed. Full marks to him for the way he played, and it makes you confident. And you're right, though, Wally. I mean, the difference of being 4-2 now, you're kind of buying some time, right? You're like, well, hey, Forsberg played that well. There's no reason that he shouldn't play against Vegas anyway.
Well, that's my debate. So if Linus Ullmark is ready, gentlemen, and says, I'm good to go, it's been a long time, it's time for me to get in the net. Travis Green says, what to Linus Ullmark?
I would, if he is 100% ready to go, I will start him, because you know what, Forsy, you had a great game for us. We love it. Now you got a little more trust in your goaltender. Now you're looking at him a little differently than the look was from the other night that the Greener had after that one goal. Because like I said, this was a perfect storm, because if Ullmark starts, Forsberg never gets a chance to come into the net and redeem himself, and he did, and he took advantage of it. So to me, that's great. Now you've built some trust with that. And not only that, the team, like, that's when your backup comes in and gets a goalie like that, a shutout like that, it just really inspires the guys, and then everyone starts feeling it. So I know I'm starting Ullmark. If Ullmark's ready to play, he's going.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, to me, you brought him in for a reason. It's awesome. You're putting some money in the bank here. You're 4-2, and you're also confident if you have to play Forsberg. But if he's healthy, I would agree with that. And the technical adjustments that he made, he must have been doing some work with the goalie coach, because the blocker side, which has been a real weakness for him, he was playing it completely different against Salt Lake, where he was more aggressive. He was defending better. There was just way more confidence. And like I said, maybe we're so used to inconsistent goaltending, Wally, because he asked me before the show started, what do you think? Well, yeah, it just felt good. You know what I mean? He was on top of everything. He was moving. He was feeling the puck. And that was just a real nice win for him.
So the other thing too, right? Like, Wally, Justin Peters came in mid-season last year, correct?
Yeah.
Is it he came in mid-season. So
it was, with DJ. Like, I think DJ went at the same time or shortly thereafter Zach Burke was fired. Because he was DJ's guy.
So you got to think when Justin Peters comes in mid-season, it's a little different than starting. Like, when you have day one of training camp and you sit down with your goaltenders, your players, like, you have a plan in place and of how you're going to do things. So you're going from ground zero. So a little different than coming in all of a sudden and getting acclimated with your goaltender, because it had to be tough. And now you get your hands on him right away. And I'm sure he's had some tweaks, some suggestions on maybe some things he'd like to change. And boy, oh boy, whatever he did, it sure worked the other night, because I agree, Simmer, he looked like a different goaltender.
Yeah, and you inherit him as well. I mean, not that that's bad, but it's not like Ullmark, where I'm assuming the goalie coach has a pretty big saying on, hey, who around the National Hockey League would he like to bring in? And I also think that behind the scenes, Ullmark having the background with Forsberg, I think that has to be a positive, guys, of having him around. Sure. Now, ideally, you'd like to have him backing up, but I've got to think that that's given a nice push there. And yeah, I just thought that along with some opportunistic scoring, and I thought that probably Mr. Jetson, that I'm calling him now, Nick Jensen, certainly his best game as an Ottawa Senator. He was jumping on the blades on Tuesday night.
Okay, so hold on to that. We will get to Nick Jensen after we tell you about our good friends, the Charm Diamond Center people. Proudly Canadian owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece program and an unbeatable pricing policy. Check out large selection of Canadian lab-grown diamonds, mined diamonds, and don't pay until 2025 for their instant in-store financing. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. Yorkie, you had brought it up even, I think, yesterday, or if not the day before, during the game, I think, about Nick Jensen and Simmer. You had said it too about how well he played. And I mean, we got to give him a little bit of time to get acclimated. And I think he's been okay. He's got now 4 points in the last 2 games, and he was very good in that game.
Yeah, it's to me like points from Nick Jensen are a bonus, but in today's modern day NHL defenseman, you got to get up on the play. So I watched him a lot when he was in Washington and a little bit in Detroit too. I've always, like, people call him a defensive defenseman, which he is, but he skates like an offensive defenseman can. His hands, like, he's got good hands. They're not elite hands like a Makar or guys like that, but he's capable because of his skating to get up in the rush. And you saw it firsthand in that game. But that's not his job here, and he knows it. And that's why this was a really good trade, because you traded Jacob Tricker. And by the way, he's having a nice year in Washington. I watched that Caps game the other night, and he's a good fit for what Washington needs. But Jensen is a much better fit for what Ottawa needs. They don't need another left-handed power play quarterback. They had 5 of them last year. You got a right shot defenseman that's 34 years old, that knows the league, has played in the league, has a mental notebook on all the forwards in the league, has experience, and he's the perfect complementary partner for a Shabbat or a Sanderson. To me, like, this was a win-win trade for Washington and for Ottawa. But I said it from day one, Wally. I like the move. He's an under-the-radar guy that you just, you don't, not everybody appreciates that, because everybody's so hung up on stats and all this stuff. But if you watch him closely on what he does, yeah, sure, he makes a few mistakes here and there. Everybody does. But he's a solid NHL defenseman. And he's only going to get better as he gets used to his partners on where they like the passes. Even the tone of your voice with your D partner, you get used to how each other talk, so you don't get fooled by a forward coming in and pretending he's your partner, because that happens all the time. A guy will call for the puck.
The Sheldon Surrey was the classic with Jason Spezza.
Yeah, guys do it all the time.
He just dumped it behind the bench or behind the net.
Yeah, but the more, like, I got to this when I played with Wade Redden, we knew exactly where each other were going to be, how we liked our reverses, how we liked it off the boards, where we liked our pass. Like, that takes a little bit of time, and I think he's really coming into his own now.
Yeah, totally. And we, I think as he's so under the radar, guys, because of some of the other moves, and we're so focused on Ullmark. Here's another guy that had to move his family from Minnesota, Washington, D.C., wife having a baby in the middle of training camp, getting adjusted to a new partner. And realistically, when you look at that 6 the other night, Yorkie, it's Hamonic and Sanderson who are the most familiar with each other. I think Shabbat should stabilize, should be better, but Jensen is perfect for him. And watching Clevin and JBD, Clevin is getting more and more. Oh, he's getting more and more comfortable, starting to use his size. Pretty cool that his dad was at the game. But the reps, and nobody would know it better than you. You played in the National Hockey League as a defenseman. But for these guys, as you said, to get comfortable with each other, get to know each other, get to know the goaltender. And I just thought that was a real nice game. It was almost like what you would expect out of Thomas Shabbat, and it was Nick Jensen that was doing it.
I always felt that's why Ottawa's defensemen struggled so much, because they kept mixing up the pairs all the time. And as, like, everybody always talks,
they didn't have 6 guys.
Doesn't matter. But when you did, you would. I'm just telling you, Wally.
No, I get it. But I'm just saying this has been a team that's been struggling on the blue line because they haven't had.
But that's one of the reasons. But that's one of the reasons. Like, everybody talks about line chemistry. Well, you got to play with each other if you're forwards. It's actually more important with the defensemen, because when they fuck up, it's usually in the back of your net. So the more 2 guys play with each other and get comfortable, it makes a huge difference. Like, look at the good teams in the league. Like, that's what happens. So I would love to see it too. I agree, Simmer. I like Clevin and Docker, what they're doing right now. And, Jensen, it doesn't matter who you play with Sanderson. Anybody that Like Sanderson's that good. He's that good. He's that good. Like I said before, give him the puck. He's an automatic breakout. But Hamonic's done a real nice job. You can't discredit him.
So here's the question, and sorry if I cut you off, Simmer, is everybody's discussing when Artem Zub comes back, is it just Travis Hamonic comes out of the lineup? Is that just a given at this point?
No. Go ahead, Simmer. You take this one.
No, I wouldn't say it's a given. I would do it. Now, it's very strange to see a guy that's in your first pairing that all of a sudden, if a guy comes back, it's almost like he's holding a spot. And there's nothing negative. The only defenseman that I can really critique right now is Thomas Chabot, to be quite honest with you. I still think there's a lot that has to be cleaned up defensively. But there's nobody in that group that I think is underachieving. I would say this for the rest of the year and for the future. I respect that Hamonic's a veteran player, and I know coaches feel that. But JBD, to me, has gone through a threshold, guys, that you look for and wait for in a player, and especially as a defender. That is a different person on the back end right now. He is physically more capable. He seems very calm with the puck. What he's also doing a lot better, York, he's skating the puck out of traffic, where I thought that was a real problem for him in the past. But hey, you're just finding your way. So if Zub came back, what would I do? I wouldn't take Bernard Docker out of the lineup again. I know that'll be a tough choice, but absolutely I would slide Zub in with Sanderson and take Hamonic out. But that's nothing negative against Hamonic. This is a nice problem. Yeah. You point out, Wally, right? Like it has been chaos on the back end for how long? You had Carlson and Mathot together. Then you had a bunch of stay-at-home defensemen who stayed at home and never got out of their zone. Then we went through the greatest shutdown defenseman in the history of mankind with Mr. Zaitsev. Like it has been a long time, not to mention how few players have come through as defensemen and developed outside of Carlson and then Chabot. Sanderson comes along. Now you got Clevin. Now you got Bernard Docker. Finally, your system is starting to produce some of these guys. And I think this is a really nice situation to be in individually. Like I said, I just think Chabot there needs to be some cleanup. I'd sit him down if I'm Nolan Baumgartner, and I'd say, listen, not trying to be disrespectful. Let's go over a few Sanderson tapes here and let's talk about defending. I still think his gap control seems to play outside of the dots a lot, Yorkie, and seems to get caught where he's just not comfortable. And I think he also realistically has to really kind of have that coming to Jesus moment of, what am I right now? I'm not running the power play. I need to become a really, really solid, capable defender and, continue to use that skating.
Yeah. It's funny. Ottawa, they talk about goalie graveyard. Like bad teams that are bad and miss the playoffs and play in their own zone all the time become defenseman graveyards because it's hard to develop when you're always defending. So first off, with Hamonic, I agree, that's a good problem to have. The only thing with Hamonic that I really like, late in games, he blocks a lot of key shots, and I would say to me, he's a better penalty killer than Bernard Docker. He just understands how to penalty kill a little bit better. So it depends if you're gonna take him out of your lineup, who you're gonna roll out on your penalty kill. I'm still not totally comfortable as Jacob Bernard Docker as a penalty killer. I just think he has to make a few better reads, but I like how he's trending. He is getting more confident. He is getting better. So I think it's a good problem. I think that problem will work itself out. By the time Zub's ready to come back, there'll probably be somebody else hurt. So that's what always happens. But like I said, to me, no one's really playing poorly. Could Chabot be? I think here's the thing: what's going on with Chabot. When somebody comes in and they kind of take the job that you were supposed to do, it's a little bit of a shot at your confidence because he was the power play quarterback of this team. That's what he does best. So I think he's going through an adjustment period right now because now Sanderson's taken that role on, and Sanderson's played well. So for Chabot, I think there's something to that. He's got to figure out what he's going to be moving forward. And in today's NHL, you have to defend. I don't think he's been bad. I don't think he's been bad at all. I just think he's an easy target for a lot of people because when he plays, he looks like it's effortless. And a lot of guys that have played that way, I remember Wade Redden was a whipping boy here for a long time. Chabot's the guy. Those types of guys, you focus on them because, okay, why is he being so casual? Why is he doing that? But I think he's got the, not curse, but he's got the, I'll call it a curse of a guy that's he's such a good skater. But I do agree, middle of the ice, there's some improvement that needs to get cleaned up for sure in front of that boxing out. But this is why you got the D coach now, right? You have a guy that played in the NHL, that was a defensive defenseman in Baumgartner, that can really help in those areas. And I think he's going to, as this season goes on, you're going to see his fingerprints on all over all 7 of the D.
Okay, I want to get on to a couple other topics. We also got to talk about Vegas, who's the next up, because they've got off to a pretty good start. We will discuss that in a sec. But this segment, powered by Square. If you run a restaurant, you're too busy for this ad. You're thinking about how to get more orders flowing and new locations opening. You need to get more customers and keep them coming back. So really, you're thinking about Square, because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. So when you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Go to squareup.com today, and you can see the full URL in our show description. Vegas has not been very kind to the Ottawa Senators. And in fact, right now, Vegas is 4-0 at home to start this season, I should point out. Here's a look at Ottawa's trips to Vegas. The last time they won in Vegas, Mark Stone was the first star of the game for the Ottawa Senators. That's right. March of 2018 is the last time they were winners in Vegas. That's a 1-3-2 record. It's not been kind.
No, it doesn't look. The stats don't lie, Wally. So when we get down to picking here, it's going to be interesting who goes first.
And they might have the best line in hockey right now with Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, and Ivan Barbashev. They have a third, I think, of all of the Vegas goals. And they have 10 of the 29 goals. All 3 are top 11 in scoring. He's
old Barba Papa there. He's pretty underrated. You don't hear a lot about Barbashev, but that's a sneaky good line. And you just don't hear about him because they're in Vegas, right?
Yeah. Well, and the other part, when St. Louis won the Stanley Cup, they had that great fourth line. He was on it. That's all I thought he was a checker. What's incredible, guys, when you go through this lineup, and it's just astonishing what they've got. They have Jack Eichel, who is, a second pick overall in their lineup. They have Mark Stone, who was Ottawa's best player. You get Barbashev in a deadline deal, then you sign him to an extension. It's just amazing. And then the other part, Wally and Yorkie, I don't think that there's a lot of home ice advantages in the National Hockey League. And this has nothing to do with the show in Vegas and everything going on. But I got to say that atmosphere in there can be pretty intimidating. It's kind of like when old Montreal gets rolling and the crowd gets rolling. That is a tough barn to go into. So, based on the way the Ottawa teams have been and based on the way Vegas has been, no real shocker. So let's see what they can bring on Friday night.
Do you know what Vegas does? And Tampa does this as well. This is what good teams do. They make tough decisions when guys get older. It's like you have to, and this is Vegas's motto, and I know this for a fact because I know how their owner thinks. It's team first. It's not like, well, this player is a legacy player and he's played here forever. So you know what? We're gonna give him a couple more years. If you want to be a really good team, you can't operate that way. And Vegas made some tough decisions. Like Marchessault's off now, and he's playing in Nashville. You move on, and then other guys step up. Like Nicholas Waugh is a great player, but now he's the next guy, Barbashev. And then as guys get into their prime, you replace them. Where I just find so many teams, Simmer, they stick with their legacy guys, and all of a sudden you become a bad team, and it's tough to get out of it.
Yeah, if you went through the whole National Hockey League, guys, and you were being honest with yourself and said, hey, listen, when a guy gets to 30 years old, I don't care how great he's been. Let's just move on. When you look at Marchessault, there's a guy that ended up winning the Conn Smythe Trophy. Am I right in saying that? That alone with a lot of franchises would earn you a contract extension. Everyone gets mad. Think of the Stamkos situation. What could be more difficult than having a player like that and doing exactly that? No, we're not going to give a legacy contract. We see a guy that's become one-dimensional on the power play. We're going to move past him. And then everyone's how you treat your players like that. How are other guys going to, hey, guys don't care. They want to win hockey games. Vegas has been the same thing. Hey, do you see how they treat the players and they just ship guys out? Yeah. The guys in the locker room love it because there's only one purpose going into the year is to try to win the Stanley Cup. And I couldn't agree more with you. Not to mention they got a great program. Like players are begging to play there. You know what I mean? It's not like, hey, we've created a standard here and we're going to play to that standard. And I think just freshening things up. And Butchie did the same thing when he was with Boston. I mean, how many guys did they turn over, on the back end? And it was like, okay, that's fine. We're not going to pay that. We're going to bring the next guy through. And we have faith in our program. We have faith in our teaching. And just as a 5-man units and the way they kind of maul you, that they're not an easy matchup. I mean, they go long and big on the back end there, and they're very well supported by the forward group.
Could you here's the thing. I'm shocked the Washington Capitals are winning right now. Like, their coach must be one hell of a coach, because I would hate to be in his position right now, because you've got a player in Alexander Ovechkin he's the greatest goal scorer of all time. He is. Let's just call it what it is. But you watch him play now, and you have to figure out a way as a coach to get him into opportunities where he's going to get his goals, because the main objective of your franchise right now isn't to win the Stanley Cup. It's to get him the goal record. And you got all these guys on the team that have careers and want to win. And it must be such a tough thing to do as a coach, because you watch Ovi play, like he's cheating all over the ice to try and score. But this team's still winning, which is crazy. And
it's come full circle, Yorkie, because that's the way it was early on. And it was Barry Trotz who finally turned in, but that's what he was like in the National Hockey League. But what were you going to do? He's scoring all the goals. So what do you do now? You try to protect him at even strength, and you realize, listen, you go stand there on the power play and you just do that. And also say, for my buddy Chris Patrick, who I drafted in Washington, who's now running the team, they showed some big balls this summer, guys, taking on that Pierre-Luc Dubois contract. I was kind of like, what the hell?
He's been good.
He has. And Chikrin, I was kind of wondering, okay, you bring a little stabilizer, take a stabilizer out like Jensen. And they made some pretty bold moves there. And I agree with you in watching them. They're a little better than I expected. But like you said, he's 40 away now? He's got 2 on the season. So you go through records, Wally, and you kind of, 10 years ago, and you'd say, hey, give me a list of records that'll never be broken in sports. I swore with the way the National Hockey League was trending, there's no way anybody would ever break that record. Like, I still can't believe that Alexander Ovechkin is doing that.
Well, I don't know if you heard, here's how good of a guy Wayne Gretzky is. I don't know if you guys heard this story. It was out there yesterday. Gretz has actually been calling Ovechkin and encouraging him. And he's saying, don't worry, he didn't score tonight. We all have off nights. And Ovechkin commented on, he goes, this Wayne Gretzky, he goes, what a wonderful person. He's actually encouraging me to break the record. Like, it's unbelievable the kind of guy Gretz is.
Well, don't you want that? He's got like 63 or 61 records.
That one's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, but who's ever going to say that Wayne Gretzky is not the greatest player of all time? Maybe when McDavid retires, maybe. And I can't imagine. Like,
no, Gretzky. That's those years he had, and I think deep down inside with Wayne Gretzky, and this is just my personal opinion, for me, he cherishes the Stanley Cups more than any of his individual awards and records. To me, that's what he was all about.
And he's done so much at this point. It doesn't. He's got so many points. In fact, and like that record's never going to be touched. He can enjoy this one because it gives him just as much attention too, right?
Yeah.
Like
Simmer was so crazy because I played against Gretz a ton when I was in Anaheim. He was in LA, and we weren't very good in Anaheim. But when you played against him, you had this in the back of your mind when you went in the corner. It's like, this is Gretzky. I got to take him out. But I don't want to hit him too hard because this is Gretzky. Well, first of all, if I do, someone's going to come after me and kill me. Probably Marty McSorley, but also too, like I've never played against a player that had that kind of aura and that kind of respect, where everybody at least in my generation, you respected him so much where you went in the corner and you're like, all right, I'm going to hit him, but I'm not that hard because this is Gretz. I mean, that's just the way it was.
Well, and there's a reason there's a hockey team in Utah. There's a reason that there's a hockey team in Vegas. And I don't want to hear anything other than the Wayne Gretzky factor of going to LA and the way that he changed hockey. The other thing, and seeing him behind the scenes, guys, I can remember him rolling into DC, and he was getting older at the time, and it had kind of turned into a half-court player. All the stuff that he had to do with the media, everybody wants a signed stick. He knew it. He got it. And it was really referenced back to Gordie Howe. The fun part will be if Ovi gets close. Remember when Gordie Howe had to kind of follow him around? He's like, come on, I don't want to keep traveling here. Go ahead and break the record. The guy just gets it. I mean, he is the greatest salesman in the history of sports. And he's been nothing but a class act, and he always understood it. I mean, that to me, I mean, there's no shock of the way he's doing this. He's an absolutely selfless hockey player in person.
Wally, were you working with TSN when he played his last game in Canada? Were you covering the Sens?
I had bronchitis.
You missed that night?
No, I'm there, but I can barely like breathe at this point.
Yeah.
So I was covering that.
It was that game. That game was so surreal because everybody in the building was there to see Wayne Gretzky, and he was using, I think, a new stick almost every shift and signing them and giving them away. The smartest guy on the ice. Here's how stupid I am. You're just playing. The smartest guy on the ice in that game. Wally knows the story. The end of the game was Igor Kravchuk. Igor Kravchuk skates up to Gretz and asks him for his stick. Like, what the fuck am I thinking? Like, come on, wake up, Yorkie. Like, it's the ideal. Even get a little picture. Hey, get the camera guy. Come over, a little picture here for the wall. Nothing. I got nothing out of that game. And Igor's got the stick.
So I have. It's funny you say that. That game. Up until that point, I'd never asked really for an autograph. And the Citizen made a few photos of his last game, and you could see like the ring around the 100 level says like, congrats Wayne Gretzky or whatever. And I
remember that.
But the Citizen, they actually stopped printing. I think they were told to stop printing the photos. Something about you couldn't get them any longer. Anyway, I got a photo, and he's coaching in, I'm pretty sure he's coaching Arizona at the time. So the Arizona PR guy I know really well at the time. And I was like, listen, do you think at all, I hate to do, do you think he could sign this? He goes, sure, just absolutely. Here, tell me your address. We'll send it back to you. Great. I get the letter. I get the package from the Arizona. It's got with a Phoenix Coyotes sticker on it. It's completely open. It's gone. So I called the post office. I'm like, you just sent me an empty package. Anyway, they're like, who's Wayne Gretzky? I'm like, never mind. So Roy Malacker, who was the president and the CEO of the Sens at the time, found out about this, and he knows Wayne really well from the LA days. Got another photo done, framed it, and had it signed by Wayne and sent back to me.
Look at that, eh? Roy Malacker is good people.
Roy Malacker, yeah. So I'll never forget that. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, he had sent it back to me. So a much better photo and a much better frame than I had done.
Yeah, I can't believe that's not in the background. The other thing I'll say with Ovechkin, guys, and I was in Washington when we drafted, and then I ended up going to Toronto, but I certainly take a lot of credit for helping throw the season. And to me, these are the pivotal moments for careers, guys. We ended up trying to lose, and I'm open to say that. You go through the lineup. No, we did. We were calling guys up from the East Coast League and playing goaltenders that you'd never heard of. We ended up finishing third worst overall, Yorkie. Well, what ends up happening? We end up winning the lottery. If we had not, we would not have ended up with Ovechkin, would not have ended up with Malkin. It would have been franchise altering. And then the other part that I really enjoy is that you could feel the load on Ovechkin for a long time of can't win, bad teammate, other stuff. Oh, nice, Wally. That's awesome. Yeah. That's so cool.
There you go. So I gotta get it.
All right, that's good.
But show and tell day here in the show.
Yeah. But I just think with Ovechkin now, guys, he's just enjoying life. You know what I mean? He's won a Stanley Cup. People love him. You know, he could never win on the international stage. You can't win him. He's a coach killer. You know, there was so much negativity.
Remember that?
It's just like him, just like he and Crosby now. It's just like, man, I finally gotten over that hump, and now you feel great.
Simmer, how old do you think he really is, by the way?
Ovechkin?
It's like Danny Almonte pitching at the Little League World Series.
Well, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I remember when Russian guys used to come over. Everybody used to early on when the Russian player was like, okay, this guy says he's 25, but he's actually 35. It was like nobody knew.
Oh yeah, you go to games, Yorkie, and you had to have a Russian scout with you there, and it wasn't because of them even knowing anything about hockey. They had to let you know that was actually the player. The coaches would switch the lines all the time and switch the numbers on the jersey. You had no idea. And that reminds me of when Patrick Ewing came into the NBA. You're kind of like, whoa, and wasn't it Junior Felix with the Blue Jays?
Junior Felix
supposed to be 20. Well, he's supposed to be 21 years old, and he's asking for days off, and then they discover later that he's actually 31. I agree with you. It was wild, the stuff that you had scouts in Russia, guys, back in the day. They would scout for 2 different teams. They just used different names. Like, how are you going to find out?
Mark,
it's unbelievable.
Wally, get your understudy to clip that for us. That Junior Felix mention on a hockey show. I think that is a first, an all-time first.
I had to dig deep for that one.
We got to move on. Yorkie, it's your turn.
Okay. Well, as always, thanks to our good friends at BEI, Bonisher Excavating. If you want to do some equipment rentals, get some topsoil and some aggregate supplies, BEI is who you got to give a call to. Let me put my glasses on so I can actually read.
How do you not know this?
Well, I don't have the phone number memorized.
613-432-1120.
Nobody has phone numbers memorized anymore with cell phones.
I know this number like there's only one number I know.
It's not like the old days when you had to use the phone in the kitchen and everybody was listening to you as you called your girlfriend. Like everyone's got a cell phone now. You can also look them up at bonisherexcavating.com on the web. BEI, it's helping to shape the Ottawa Valley, and please slow down in construction zones.
We'll get back to the phone in just a second. Also, this show proudly presented by by Bet365, proud partner of Coming in Hot. Open an account today with Bet365. Bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION. That's NATION. Must be 19 years of age or older. Please play responsibly. Don't forget, download the app. Big game tonight, by the way, is Florida and the Rangers going head to head. But Yorkie, did you have the phone that had like the 10 miles of cord so you could take it down the hall into like your bedroom or to another room?
I grew up. My sister still lives in our house. When my mom passed away, she bought the family home because my sister didn't want to give it up. It's in Nepean. We've had it since the late 60s. It was basically a 3-bedroom bungalow for 7 people. And my grandmother lived with us. So there was 8 of us in there. And there was one telephone in the kitchen, up on the wall, the old dial, and in the long cord. So if you want a little privacy, you had to go around the corner, talk like that so nobody could hear you. But yeah, that's the one everybody had. Simmer probably had the same phone.
Oh, absolutely. And the cord was always tangled. Everyone was always playing with it. You had the good old rotary. That's how old I am. Yep. Oh, no, there's no doubt you had that. Now that I have to go completely off topic because I'm thinking about phones. And one of the stupidest things I've ever heard of was Jason Doig when he was playing junior hockey. He decided he was going to stay at his girlfriend's house after curfew. So he brought the cordless phone from his billet's house. thinking it would work.
That's cool.
Oh, that's so good.
All right. So we got it. It's time now to make our picks for tomorrow's game since we're not going to have a show tomorrow. So let's get serious because we need to buckle down here. This is an important game. Can the Ottawa Senators beat the Vegas Golden Knights for the first time in 6 games? I think it is 7 games. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, well, you've been whining and complaining because you always go last.
You're at 2-4 right now. Yorkie's at 4-2, and I'm at 5-1 after the win the other night. Just for the people that are keeping score at home.
Well, you get to go first.
Question. No question. I am taking the Vegas Golden Knights in this game.
Wow, back to back. You hate the Sens.
There's no way you can bet against a team that's 4-0 at home this year, the best line in hockey, and Ottawa hasn't won there since 2018.
Ottawa's a different team now, Wally. Have you seen their expected goals against? They're going to have Hallmark probably starting.
And I know they have the second best power play in the league. But here's this, by the way, if this goes according to plan, Ottawa will come away victorious based on how I choose. So this is like a reverse psychology thing.
Yeah, I'll go last this time. Go ahead, Sarah.
You know what? Yeah, I'm back and forth, but I'm riding the hot hand right now, and I was not confident when all of a sudden you two came out the other night, boys. I thought, oh man, this is going to get ugly. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Vegas. I just don't. That building, I think Ottawa got lucky. I think they're going to be having a little bit of fun here, and even if Ullmark's back, still think there's some things to be worked out with the forward group. So I'll take Vegas as well. What about you, Yorkie?
I'd like to take Ottawa because I like the way they're playing, with the exception of the first 10 minutes of last game, as that game moved along. But yeah, I got a hard time going against Vegas too. That record is tough to ignore, and I don't know if Allmark's going to start yet. I think they might go back to Forsberg.
He's not starting.
You don't think Allmark's starting?
Well, they're not even having a morning skate because it's a 3:00 game in Vegas.
Yeah, but they're practicing today.
They practiced today. They had 3 goalies on the ice. If he was ready to go, Marilainen wouldn't have been on the ice to me. Like I don't believe that he's ready if Marilainen's still there. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
they're just going to give Marilainen and just say, here you go, kid. You're going to earn some extra coin here. We'll keep you up for the rest of the road trip just in case something goes wrong, just so you're nearby.
Maybe
that is interesting.
Yeah, I was also going through a list. If they're going to have the rookie dinner, that's probably why they called him up. I mean,
another guy's credit card.
It would have all been on Tyler Clevin.
Is Clevin the only rookie? Is he the only rookie?
I'm going through the lineup. I mean, they called up Reinhardt for a bit. They've got Marilainen. I don't know. I don't know. Technically, JBD would not be a rookie, right? Ridley Gregg, Ridley Gregg, I guess. But no, there's not
he
a lot of guy.
Ridley Gregg played 70 games last year.
That's
whatever
true. That's true. Yeah. So it could have been expensive for the old K train.
That's when that happens. It's usually the guys with the biggest contracts in the team have to step in and alleviate the bill because it gets so out of hand. But man, that's probably why they're keeping him up. And she's probably shitting his pants. Oh my God, I'm called up for the rookie dinner.
He's probably checking his limit on his credit card. He's like, well, I don't know. I'm doing some math here. I don't think that's going to work.
I have a $2,000 limit.
And have you guys been to Vegas? Vegas is outrageous right now. Like a good,
I'd say
go to a good bottle of wine at a nice restaurant, I can't even fathom to believe what that's going to cost. And then you're going to get into the cigars and oh God.
They'll be at Hell's Kitchen. We'll see them on the show sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I'm taking. Is it confirmed? Do we know for sure? Is the rookie dinner going on? Is it going down?
Well, they didn't send me the itinerary, but this is the only chance they've had an off day on this trip. So I'm going to go with yes.
Get it done now. Yeah,
there will be some team function for sure.
Yeah. And I think what's also happened, guys, and you go back to the Stanley Cup party with Boston, I think teams are doing less and less publicizing of it, right? Because I don't think anybody really wants to hear about a hockey team of millionaires having a $50,000 dinner. I think it's more like, hey, just keep it private. Let's go do our thing. And there's no need to put this out on social media.
Yeah,
the Sens, we're going on a road trip to Dallas. I forget which year. It's during COVID. And Pierre Dorian comes into the room and says, guys, listen, just be really smart. Just let's not get together, I think, on this trip. I think he says something about, or just stay away, like just try to be good about this. And they all went out. They all started posting photos from it. They ended up getting COVID. A few of the players. Yeah. He was pissed.
That's not fun when you're a manager, right? You think you got to hold the room here, and they're just doing a nice FU right back to you. Yeah, that does not feel good.
Guys, I just asked you to do one small favor. Okay, now that we picked Vegas,
we all. I just to confirm, I am taking Vegas.
No, you've said it 3 times. I take Vegas, and I get yelled at. You guys take it like, oh, well, that's a smart decision.
Well, yeah, but you've taken the other team almost every game.
That is not true at all.
We did last game.
But that's why Wally's at 2-4. He's taking Wally's taking one for the team. That's why the team's 4-2 and he's 2-4.
There was 2 games.
He's a man of the people.
I had to take because you guys both picked the same team. By the way, Joshua Bois, thank you for your $10 donation. Very nice and kind.
Hey, Josh.
Quickly, Brady Tkachuk, who was I thought he was pretty quiet in the last game, has, however, rolling with a point in every game so far this season. 6 points, 6 games. In fact, if we were to go back, he ended up having a point in the last game of last season, but it doesn't count on his current point streak. If he gets a point tomorrow, he will tie Chris Tierney for 7 games to start the season, which would be the 8th best point streak to start the season for the Ottawa Senators. Danny Heatley may never have this record broken by the Ottawa Senators. 22 games to start the season back in 2005 for streaks. So it's been a pretty good start for Brady and company.
Great start. Quick trivia question for you two guys. Where do you think Chris Tierney is playing this year, by the way?
He is in the KHL.
Correct. At Minsk Dynamo. He is
Yeah.
4 points in 9 games.
Yeah, that's where I worked for a couple of years in Dynamo Minsk, and it is funny because I think there's almost 100 Canadian players, and once in a while you'll see on social media some backlash of you shouldn't be over there taking the money. Listen, you got to fend for your family, and also guys, if you gave me 1,000 players that I thought would be on that list of point streaks to start a season,
that's why it's there.
I would have gone over 1,000 without saying Chris Turney.
Yeah.
I did not expect that.
I don't
talk
think
about a guy that just fell off the cliff too as a hockey player.
Yes, I don't think you would have picked Philip Kuba either.
No, he was playing with Carlson, but yeah, you're right.
And by the way, a couple of notes to bring up before we get out of here. Thomas Chabot has 1 assist away from 200. He, by the way, does lead the Ottawa Senators in scoring against the Vegas Golden Knights as current Ottawa Senators. So maybe he picks up an assist tomorrow for career 200. You said Salt Lake, as in the name of the team, is like you named the Utah Hockey Club Salt Lake.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe there is Salt Lake is in their name whatsoever.
The old IHL team, isn't it? Similar, the old IHL is.
Well, originally, and I remember my buddy Theo Fleury playing there. They were Calgary's farm team originally, and then the Rangers went in there in the old IHL, and they had a team leading up to. Well, actually, I'm sorry, one of the teams from Denver ended up moving there, but yeah, no, they got a pretty rich history. So that's why I was thinking of the Salt Lake City Eagles is what they were called at the time. So you're right, just the Utah Hockey Club (HC).
By the way, Brady Tkachuk has tied his career high for a point streak. So 1 more and he will establish a new career high at 7 games. The Arkells, we gave out the tickets. I'm still waiting for that guy to message me on Twitter to get me his contact info. So if Rob Scott is watching, Westport Rob Scott, if you could get in contact or check your DMs, that would be great. But Travis Hamonic played his very first NHL game on this date back in 2010. Jake Sanderson scored his first NHL goal against the Vegas Golden Knights in Vegas. So we'll see perhaps if he can do that again. So I will take a Jake Sanderson goal in the game.
Wow. Okay. Jake Sanderson getting a lot of people around the NHL are actually starting to pay attention now. Do you notice that?
We've been saying it for 2 years.
Yeah, but it is interesting now, Yorkie, with social media. You know, I totally agree with you. Like, this wasn't the case when Carlson first came in. No, I think he's getting a lot of notice. I don't think it hurts that he's an American-born player. And I think based on his season, probably going to the 4 Nations, or he will go to the 4 Nations if he's healthy. Yeah, I think a lot of people, as you said, around the league are starting to get a pretty good feel for this guy. And I'm going to take as far as scoring. I had Brady Tkachuk the other night. Take old Chucky. He loves playing against Mark Stone, his old buddy there. So I'll take Brady Tkachuk to score a goal.
Okay. Shea Theodore signed an extension. I'm just going by what's in the chat, so forgive me if this is wrong. 7 years at 7.425 for Shea Theodore in Vegas.
What the heck was Anaheim thinking on that one, Yorkie?
Yeah, I know. He's a hell of a player, boy. Like, I don't know what they were thinking.
I had him at the World Championships one year. He was
nice guy.
He was their best D. Yeah, fantastic. I
Good
really,
guy,
really liked him. Yeah.
He can really skate. You watch Theodore, like, he's just effortless, and that's just a great system they play there too. I love watching him. Doesn't get a lot of respect around the league because he probably, guys like that too. Eh? Under the radar, you're in Vegas. Just do your thing, right? Do your thing. Make your money. No taxes. It's a nice life. So I'm going to take for my little wager in this game. I'm going to take. You went Tkachuk goal. Wally, what did you go? What was your bet?
Sanderson goal.
Sanderson goal. Okay. I'm gonna go with another Drake Batherson goal.
Wow.
Another Drake Batherson goal. Yes.
Wow.
He's feeling it.
That's you think like it's interesting.
He is playing with so much confidence right now. Like he's feeling it. He's feeling it, and I think he's gonna continue.
I just want to see, while I'm trying to delay here, is what he has scored against Vegas in his career.
And you also look at that forward group, guys. Like, these guys have now been together long enough, Yorkie, where they're feeling it. The chemistry is developed. We talked about deep pairings. Same thing with the forward groups, and that power play it's not quite to where Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasternak were at, but it was almost like playing keep away down low, always in that triangle. They would read the play almost like a soccer player, fill the hole. And I think you're starting to get some of that feel because you have such an intelligent player like Batherson, and he's clicking pretty good, whether it be with Stützle or Norris. You know, I think there's some real nice chemistry right there.
So Drake hasn't scored in Vegas, but he has scored against Vegas. He scored in the last game back in February in the 4-3 shootout win. He picked up a goal there. That's his first against Vegas. He had an assist in the game before. So he's got 2 points in the last 2 games against the Vegas Golden Knights. So maybe Yorkie.
Yeah, and I'd like to see a Matteo get off the schneid here too. Like I like him. Smart player. Be good for the player too to score or at least get on the score sheet against his former team. Yeah,
and maybe he's got to pay for part of the rookie dinner. Since it's
he'll have some dineros on the board for this one.
All right, boys. Great week. Appreciate all the work you do, and to see you on Monday.
Yeah, you're welcome for me opening the show, by the way.
Safe travels, by the way.
Yeah, great job. Have a beauty weekend, Ottawa. Enjoy the hockey. Enjoy the weather.
Yes. Cheers. See you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Coming In Hot. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.